In recent years, higher education has faced crushing pressure from policymakers and the public to prove its worth. They want hard, comparable numbers that measure exactly what students are learning. The U.S. Department of Education has steadily increased its demands for institutional accountability, pushing universities to deliver quantifiable results to justify their costs. This push accelerated with the 2006 Spellings Commission report. Shortly after, the National Assessment of Adult Literacy revealed that less than a third of college graduates could actually read complex texts and draw complicated inferences. While state and federal agencies demanded simple, comparable numbers to address this, employers were asking for something completely different. They needed graduates capable of solving complex problems, innovating, and integrating knowledge across disciplines. Caught between these competing demands, many institutions defaulted to an easy, off-the-shelf solution. They adopted standardized testing to generate a quick, quantifiable score to satisfy their external critics. But these exams suffer from several critical flaws. First, they only capture a narrow snapshot in time, testing isolated samples of students on a single day. Second, they carry zero stakes for the students taking them. Because performance on these exams doesn't affect their grades or graduation status, the resulting data fails to reflect authentic effort. And third, they offer almost no diagnostic value. A single overarching institutional score tells a university how it ranks against others, but it provides zero actionable insight for a professor trying to improve a specific course curriculum. Even traditional metrics like retention and graduation rates fall short. They track whether a student stayed in school, but they measure absolutely nothing about a student's actual intellectual development. By chasing these standardized metrics, higher education accepted reductive, outmoded measurements. The resulting numbers satisfy compliance mandates, but fail to prove the actual value universities provide to society. The Association of American Colleges and Universities recognized this disconnect and developed a structural alternative, the Value Project. This visual diagram outlines their approach. Instead of standardized tests filtering down to an isolated number, the value framework relies on a dual architecture. It collects authentic student work through e-portfolios and evaluates that work using shared meta-rubrics. A meta-rubric acts as the structural backbone. It is a framework that synthesizes localized, faculty-driven expectations into a cohesive national standard. This architecture is designed to address the tension between two competing needs: the demand for national data comparability and the requirement for institutional autonomy. Crucially, this framework does not require standardizing the actual courses being taught, only the method of evaluating their outcomes. The core proposition is that institutions can achieve standardized assessment of results without needing a standardized curriculum. Assessing broad skills at scale presents an immediate logistical problem. Every independent campus defines a concept like critical thinking differently. To solve this, the AACNU began by gathering existing localized assessment rubrics from 12 diverse pilot institutions. They collected criteria from community colleges, massive state universities, and small private liberal arts colleges. They then formed cross-institutional teams of faculty and staff to analyze this massive, disparate collection of rubrics. These teams filtered through the varied local terminologies. They bypassed the specific jargon of individual campuses and extracted the shared underlying criteria and learning expectations that appeared across all of them. The resulting meta-rubric is scaled progressively. It details exact expectations for student performance, starting from a novice level and building sequentially all the way to advanced undergraduate mastery. Once deployed, local faculty take this shared meta-rubric and map their specific course-level language directly back onto its core criteria. Because the local language maps cleanly to the national criteria, a proficient rating on an essay at a small private college equates to the exact same standard as a proficient rating at a large state university. This ensures comparability while maintaining the nuance of actual human judgment. It avoids reducing student learning to a rigid, machine-graded algorithm. Currently, these meta-rubrics cover 14 essential learning outcomes, capturing a depth of analysis far beyond what any standardized test can encompass. By isolating shared expectations, the meta-rubric architecture successfully transforms disparate, localized qualitative judgments into a reliable, shared national framework. With the evaluation framework established, the process requires raw data. This means applying these meta-rubrics to authentic student work collected within e-portfolios. An e-portfolio is a digital repository. Instead of a single test sheet, it captures actual work generated for existing course requirements, items like lab reports, capstone presentations, and extensive research essays over a 4-year span. This data possesses face validity. Because these specific assignments dictate a student's actual course grades, the portfolio accurately reflects their true motivation and investment. This provides a stark contrast to the artificial environment of a low-stakes Saturday morning standardized exam, where students have almost no incentive to perform at their highest level. E-portfolios also offer a distinct longitudinal advantage. They track a student's intellectual growth over months and years, mapping an ongoing trajectory rather than providing an isolated snapshot. For faculty, this longitudinal data is immediately useful. It pinpoints exactly where in the 4-year curriculum students are thriving and precisely where instructional improvements are required. E-portfolio assessment effectively aligns the high-level demands of institutional accountability directly with the everyday pedagogical work of the faculty. This adaptable approach is increasingly necessary because the traditional, linear 4-year path at a single institution is no longer the norm. Today's students frequently transfer between 2-year and 4-year schools. They pause their education, and they regularly blend online coursework with face-to-face instruction. The digital, portable nature of the e-portfolio is specifically designed to solve this mobility problem. The portfolio belongs to the student, moving seamlessly from campus to campus and gathering data regardless of where the learning actually occurs. By capturing work across different physical and digital contexts, evaluators can measure integrative learning, the vital ability to synthesize knowledge across academic boundaries and apply it to new environments. True educational assessment must adapt to the complex reality of the student's actual journey, rather than forcing the student to adapt to a rigid testing window. The final hurdle is communication. To be viable, institutions must translate these qualitative e-portfolio judgments to external audiences who demand hard, comparable data. This diagram shows how the system translates results. E-portfolio assessment doesn't output a single score, but it produces quantifiable outcomes for policymakers. By aggregating criteria, institutions make definitive public statements, proving 95% of students demonstrated satisfactory complex problem-solving abilities. This framework delivers rich, highly descriptive data. For an employer, seeing a portfolio of evaluated work provides a clearer measure of skill than a raw percentile score or generic ranking. Higher education is at a crossroads. It already possesses the evidentiary resources and the learning management technology required to measure multidimensional complexity. Institutions no longer need to rely on external testing corporations to dictate what quality education looks like. By adopting the value framework, higher education can reclaim its accountability narrative. It allows universities to permanently shift the public conversation away from reductive rankings and back toward